Hello, namaste, Max,
Namaste, Julia.
and namaste, all the wonderful people who are watching this episode of Shanti Talks. Today we have another exciting topic, so um, we'll keep watching this. It's really interesting. We'll talk about the transition of 3D to 5D. It's something that um, been just coming up again and again, and I feel like I'm starting to get this demand of people just asking me, questions. What does it all mean? What is ascension? What is this whole consciousness shift that is happening right now? What is this mass awakening on the planet? So I think it's a good time to talk about it now, as we are all noticing these huge changes happening on the planet, as negative and positive at the same time, or what we can define as relatively. But definitely, Max is one of the best people to talk about it with, because he's also been on this journey for a long, long time. And he has a great way of explaining things, especially for beginners on this path, or someone who's just starting to kind of open their mind to these ideas, this kind of spiritual terms and all these things that we're talking about for years. Right? So Max, can you just go ahead and tell us a little bit more? What is the 3D to 5D shift? What is going on right now on this planet in your own perspective, your own experience?
So the D is short for dimension, and the way that most people perceive the world, or how we all used to perceive it, is that we have three dimensions in space. So there is up, down, left, right, and in, out. So if you remember from school, we had the graph with the X and the Y axis, and doing basic math there. And then at some point, I'm guessing for most people in high school, you were introduced to the Z axis. So you'd have another axis to illustrate how you do math in our sort of physical reality. So those are the three dimensions. And then the next dimension is our dimension in time, which is you might say the fourth dimension when we talk about our experience of reality, or our reality experience. So we have these sort of four dimensions, which is often what is referred to as 3D. Even though there are four dimensions. And the next dimension that will sort of be put on top of this, or be included in this, is another dimension in time. So for most of us, still and in our sort of past, time was this linear progression where you could not sort of go back in time, and it was it seemed like a straight line, so to speak. Sort of the birth to death cycle is sort of like a good illustration of this. And what is happening now is we are becoming aware that time is not as linear as we might have thought. And I think we have to, when talking about this, we have to talk about it a little bit sort of from the, you might say, the mathematical perspective, with the axis in space, and then the sort of the third, or the fourth dimension in time. And then when we add another dimension in time, time stops being linear, but time sort of begins to be circular, you might say, or not a straight line. And the way that most people start to experience this is that they will have funny experiences in their time-space experience of reality. So one example of this is something like remembering past and also future lives. So suddenly you will either through the sort of the therapy called regression, you might have the experience of remembering what appears to be a past life. In sort of in actuality, it's not really in the past because everything happens in the here and now. The past and the future is something that we draw into the present moment because it is always now. You cannot be not now. So when we perceive or think about or remember the past and the future, it always happens now. It might be what we consider like a past now, and it might be what we consider a future now, but it's always now. Hence, one of sort of like the basic, you might say, spiritual teachings, whether we're talking yoga or Taoism or whatever, is that it is always now. One of the things that are then really, really interesting about this transition from the third to the fifth dimension is that all the dimensions above the fifth, so the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th dimension, becomes apparent or visible or conscious once you make this transition. So if you're living your life from the third dimensional perspective, the fifth to the 12th dimensions are not really apparent, visible, or experientially sort of clear. But once you make this transition in your consciousness from the third to the fifth dimensional perspective, all the other ones become visible, I think is maybe the best sort of word to use, or they become obvious. So you become aware that there are all these other dimensions. And then you sort of slowly begin to tap into all these other dimensions. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, we're just beginning, so I know this is kind of hard to wrap your mind around if somebody's starting to think about this. And it's not really a mental concept either. Like you actually do have to perceive it through experience. So I always think that meditation is like one of those best tools to start understanding these things, what it really is, what is the perception of reality, you know. But for now, can you explain what does it even mean living in 3D, just like you mentioned, and what is the difference of 3D and 5D consciousness?
So the biggest difference in the experience, which is the important part, really, understanding it is less important, so to speak, from the sort of creation sort of perspective than the understanding of it. Um, like in Taoism, they say knowledge is knowing how to get water. Wisdom is doing it. So the living experience of it is what matters. To sort of use that word, or it's what is important. And once you start going down this path, you will start to realize that you are not living in the world. You are the world that you think you are living in. So the outside world, the external world, so to speak, is, you might say, a projection of your own consciousness. So suddenly everything that was before outside is now inside. So there is this massive shift between thinking I am this physical body and I am in this world of, you know, Newtonian physics and hard matter and so on, to the realization that all that I see, all that I experience is a projection of my own consciousness. And in this whole transition, we begin to remember. I prefer using the word remember to the word learning, because you know everything already. It's not like something new. It is just you sort of having this like, I remember now
Right.
experience, rather than, you know, you sit down and you study and you learn something new. Um, and I think the biggest, you might say, obstacle in this transition is the realization that everything that you beforehand thought happened to you is actually something you did to yourself, which is sort of a little bit of a difficult spiritual sort of pill to swallow, because it, in a sense, it comes with tremendous amounts of responsibility. And it sort of takes some adjustment and some courage, you might say, to sort of admit this, that I did this to me. I am creating all of this. Fortunately, there's there's good news, because once you start to learn, or you start to remember how the metaphysics of it works, then it becomes a matter of constructing your reality experience so that you get what you want.
So would you say the 3D mindset is basically kind of like an ego mindset, or seeing the world as just this material, kind of this matter that doesn't depend on you, is just kind of is independently, and you're separate from all that is? Is this, that you think, like the major difference between the 3D and the 5D mindset?
Most definitely. But also, you have to stop being a victim, because the only thing you're a victim to is your own creation. And if you're in this victim, this is like, oh, poor little me, and this is all happening to me,
Okay.
then you're gonna have a bad time. Whereas if when bad things happen to you, you instead sort of turn it around and say, like, you know, I did this. I am the creator of this. I might be an idiot for creating it, but it is still my creation.
Right. And I think this is so important. And even if we spend this whole video on just talking about how to accept responsibility for your creation, this would be enough to plant the seed for some people, because I I can totally see that the majority, at least what I observe, is still not ready to accept the full responsibility. It's like we think that we're kind of responsible for some of the things, but not all of the things. It's like I create some of it, but not all of it. Instead of realizing you create all of it. And there's like thousands of books on this matter. There are, like, teachers like Abraham Hicks, and there's like 1,000 teachings out there, but people are not always ready to admit, and to really accept this truth, how we create the reality, how we project everything from within. And my journey to awakening, it started exactly with that. I just woke up one day and I realized I don't have to be a victim of the circumstances. I'm not a victim. And it's like a heavy weight came off my shoulders. I was reading The Power of Now back then. It was 2008. Somebody just handed me the book, you know? And I had this major
Actually, you,
shift.
you handed you the book.
What?
You handed you the book.
I had to do the work, but it's like it wasn't even the work, it was a realization. It was
Hmm.
it took it was like a switch, like the light turned on in my head, and I started living my life from a whole new perspective. I woke up the next day, I was like in this kind of a depressive state where there's like all these bad things were happening to me, and I was crying and I was complaining about everything. And then I just woke up after just reading half of the book in one evening. I wake up and I'm smiling for the first time. I'm laying in bed. It was cold. It was in Vegas. I remember it like now. And it was like my electricity was turned off because I didn't have the money to pay my bill. I was absolutely stressed about everything. And financially, I was totally broke. But I wake up and I'm happy, and I'm like, oh, I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to stress about anything. Like it's all in my mind. All these things that I created are just like made up. Do you want to relocate your computer?
Yeah,
The sun is
the
coming.
sun, as much as I love it, is
What time is
is
it over
getting
there
colder.
now?
It's 9 in the morning.
It looks so nice. Morning,
Yeah,
beautiful colors,
it's
beautiful
and
nature.
it's Sweden, so it's like 16, 18 hours daylight or more.
Hmm,
So, wow.
beautiful. And here
Mhm.
we have almost 40 degrees outside, so I've been kind of in my room most of the daytime, just taking care, not trying to get overheated too much. But yeah,
Hmm.
this whole, my journey, it was exactly that. It was awakening to the fact that I'm a creator of my experiences. At least I have a choice how I can react to things. I have a choice how I can manage myself. Oh, okay,
Good
kitties.
guess.
So cute. I love cats.
Our guardians.
It's amazing. Living the good life,
Yeah.
and and yesterday I had a nice video talk with a friend of mine, Philip from Germany, and he's a happiness coach. He's also been through a similar journey like many of us, kind of going through dark periods and realizing that we need to start taking responsibility. We actually discussed that point of taking responsibility, but how to even start, what we can even do, what are the little things to maybe do differently, because for me, once I had this realization, I had to kind of remind myself. From that point the work began. Actually,
Hmm.
if I fall back into the trap of like complaining or thinking negatively, I had to just switch myself back, just back on track. And I remember I had a friend that time who was driving me to work in my car because I let him use my car while I was at work. And we would just support each other, If he started complaining, then I'll start to give him like all the positive things. And he would help me out also if he saw that I'm getting off, and I start feeling negative or something. And this is really helpful to have supportive people in your life. So what can you
Hmm.
say about that? Can you just give like a little more, from your perspective, maybe what you've been through or what helped you on your journey, how to start taking that responsibility, how to even start switching the mindset, how to make it more of a habit and then more of a state of being.
Yeah. Well, we've already sort of been through the first and sort of most important step is you basically have to take responsibility for everything that happens because it is you who are creating it. You are the infinite creator, and there are no, you might say, coincidences, and things do not happen by random. So what you have to do is you have to learn how this reality game works, and it's like physics. So we know from sort of our 3D world perspective that if you take a hammer and smack one of your fingers with it, it's going to hurt.
Mm.
And if you take a ball or a stone and drop it on your foot, it's going to hurt. So we don't do that anymore because we know the rules of gravity, so to speak.
Right.
In exactly the same way, the rules or the physics of generating your reality experience are the same. They're rules or laws or yeah, metaphysics. So you have to remember or relearn or reprogram yourself according to these rules, these laws, and a lot of this has to do with your thoughts, your emotions, and your belief system. So the way that I sort of operate is if I have a, um, a negative thought, and when I say negative, I mean negative for me, because a negative thought for me might not be a negative thought for somebody else. We all have different priorities and different likes and dislikes. Um, so it's not like a universal thing because different people want to generate different reality experiences. So if I find or have a thought that I can feel is out of alignment with what I want to create, with who I am, my true self, and so forth and so on, I trace this thought back to its underlying emotion and figure out what is this emotion, what is going on with this. And then you or I trace this emotion back to its belief. Because in order to have an experience, in order to have an emotion, in order to have a thought, there has to be an underlying belief. You
Right.
have to believe something is true in order to manifest it, to
Right.
generate it, to create it. And then I do some, you might say, some digging, some negative belief hunting. So I figure out what is it that I believe is true. What would I have to believe is true in order to have this emotion, and then in order to have this thought.
Can you give
And
an
once,
example, like how that works?
um, so for me, for example, regarding like money and abundance, I believe that whatever happens, wherever I am, wherever I go, whatever I do, that I will be taken care of, whether I have money, whether I know where the money is coming from, and so forth and so on. And because I believe this, like, deeply, sort of as one of my core beliefs, I have sort of this experience of a general flow of abundance. And sometimes it comes in the form of money, sometimes it comes in the form of synchronicity, sometimes it comes in the form of imagination and creativity. Um, but the fundamental underlying belief that I have created for myself is that I don't have to worry about this. I don't have to figure out where my next meal is coming from, where the potential bus ticket or plane ticket is coming from. I don't have to worry about where I have to sleep tonight. All these things are taken care of. And thus I have the experience thereof. So I essentially can go anywhere, anytime, no matter sort of what the external circumstances may look like, and things just flow. And maybe I'm hitchhiking and I'll be picked up by someone and we'll have a really nice conversation. And then by the end, sort of when I'm about to be dropped off, they'll sort of casually ask me, do you want to come home and have some rosé on the terrace and meet my family? And we can continue this beautiful conversation. And then, of course, I always say, yes, thank you.
And that's another one, being able to say yes, being okay with saying yes. I mean, this whole subject of abundance is so deep. I could like write a book about it alone, and I probably will, just from my own journey, because a lot of us, we still don't know how to accept these gifts from the universe, how to accept this abundance. I mean, it's knocking on our door. People come and they invite you to places, they'll give you gifts, but a lot of us, we're just so uncomfortable with accepting it. We don't believe we deserve it. So this is the underlying belief. It's like, I'm not good enough, I don't deserve this. And when you said your underlying belief is that of abundance, this is more of an exception to the rule, actually. you know. And myself, I've changed that belief. I've had a very long period from birth to like late 20s of this belief in lack. I also had this, struggle most of my life of just being broke, always not having enough, struggling to pay the bills, struggling with everything. And then when I started discovering these things, I realized that I just need to work on that core belief. I need to change it. I have to start believing something better about myself and what I deserve, because it was a hard work. I had to retrain my mind. I had to do like all these kind of affirmations. I had to change everything. I had to do a major cleanup in my house. So that was my perspective, but also, and the reason I ask you about this examples is because still like we have a hard time sometimes just even understanding what is our belief. So how can we find out what are our core beliefs, and in order to even change them we need to know what they are. Do you have any suggestions for that?
Yeah, I used the question that I asked myself earlier is what must I believe is true in order to have this experience?
Mm,
What truth must I believe in order for this to happen?
mm,
And it the negative beliefs, they are, you might say, parasitic in nature. So they will sort of be sneaky and hiding and sort of try to sort of no, it's this one, it's this one. So you sort of have to be sort of really brutally honest with yourself and sort of do some hardcore sort of digging to find them sometimes. But I guess the beautiful sort of part of it is that once you find the negative belief, they will appear ridiculous. So you often, I find myself like bursting out laughing. It's like, why did I believe in that? And again, this sort of like, I'm an idiot. Like, why would I do this to myself? So I think the sort of what I'm looking for when I'm doing this is that sort of like that laughter, that deep belly sort of laughter at yourself kind of thing happening, where you're just like,
without
I'm obviously.
judging. Without judging yourself.
Yeah. But I think if you can sort of keep a sense of humor about yourself, then wow, you've come a long way.
Right.
And sort of, yeah, like sort of from this like perspective of not sort of taking yourself too seriously, sort of like, oh my God, I'm
Yeah.
I'm obviously crazy and insane, and but it's sort of, yeah, it's part of the journey, right? I think, um, yeah.
So what about, again, coming back to the 3D to 5D, and I'm still looking from the perspective of the viewer, like what are we even talking about? What does it even give you? Why do we need to shift consciously? Can we just kind of elevate with the whole? Can we just be taken along by, the planet Earth, Mother Gaia, who is ascending, or do we do need to do work? And what will change in our life? I mean, can we get happier? Can we be more peaceful? Or what
Hmm.
are the benefits, let's say?
Well, I think as as souls, or spirit, or whatever you want to sort of call the the thing we are on the other side, or the other side.
Mm,
Um, there are many different sort of paths that we've decided to take. And I think some people will just sort of drift with it in a maybe slightly sort of unconscious manner, which is perfectly okay. But for me, like the sort of like the conscious, active journey of doing this, learning this, experiencing this, and remembering this is so exciting. It's so exciting to be sort of like an active participant in your own sort of ascension, or in our ascension. So for me, it's sort of about the excitement about sort of this being being part of all this and having this tremendously exciting experience, and sort of discovering my interdimensionality, and how I'm not just sort of this Max in this body, but that I'm living several other lives in other timelines and other dimensions and other civilizations, um, both on this planet and other planets, and sort of this crazy discovery of magic and wonder and awe, and what like extra sort of sensory abilities, and being able to astral travel and work with energy, and sort of knowing when people lie, and being like a human lie detector, and sort of surfing the cosmic waves, and all this. I think it's the most exciting thing in the world. So that is why I am here personally, um,
and
and
having
why other people.
superpowers.
Yeah, exactly,
And
exactly.
this is, I just mentioned it because I just had a friend reach out to me and said, "Can you give me superpowers?" And that was a joke, I know. But in reality, it made me think, like, people do think that superpowers is something is not natural, first of all, or something we have to obtain from somewhere. But it's literally our own ability. It's we all have the potential to develop these things. Like, the psychic abilities, just being able to read somebody's mind, being able to read somebody's energies. It's amazing how it works, and you can literally prevent yourself from making so many mistakes. I can't tell you how many huge mistakes I've avoided lately just in the past years because I had a vibe about the person. I didn't go for it, or some offer I didn't accept it, though it looked beautiful and attractive on the outside and rewarding, but I just didn't go for it because I didn't have that resonance in the energy, and I felt it, something's off. I didn't go for it, and then months or years later I find out some information that I was like, wow, thank God, I didn't do it because I had that inner knowing. And now I can see through people. I can read the energy. Like you said, human lie detector is nobody can mess with me in that way. I'm totally sensitive, especially, spending some time in quarantine and being alone. This is just through the roof now. This psychic abilities are so powerful. And also, like you were saying, it's exciting. The journey becomes exciting. The life is like a movie. We don't need to even watch any movies. It's just you can be alone, you can sit with yourself in silence, and it's so exciting. You can never be bored. Like, I don't know, remember last time ever in my life that I've been bored, actually. And being without a phone or a computer or just being totally alone, I'm never bored. There's always something going on. There's some processes, there's some discoveries. there's so much to it, you know, in this multidimensional existence that you speak about. So again, like I want to kind of explore this a little bit more, and you know, these dimensions, or you know, also what about this dimensional shift? Is because everyone has like their own opinion about it. There's something that's happening in the planet where we having maybe not just two dimensions, there's like maybe thousands of different versions of the earth experience that are happening right now, and we can even be in the same room with somebody who is having a completely different experience of everything.
Yes.
Can you comment on that?
Yeah. Well, it's called universe for a reason, universe, because there's only you in it. You have your own universe, essentially. So whenever you might say, interacting with other people or other things or animals or whatever it may be, you're interacting with your own version of it, because you have your own planet, your own galaxy, your own universe, essentially.
So you are the center of your universe.
Yeah. So that's not to say that other beings or other aspects of creation does not exist. But like you say, you can be sitting in a room with somebody else, and their reality experience would be vastly different from yours. And they are in their own universe. And then it's sort of, you have these two spheres sort of collides, and there might be some kind of exchange, but your version of them and their version of themselves are two different people, you might say, and vice versa. Um, which is another reason that there's nothing to be afraid of, because it's just you out there. It's just your own version of whatever energy you encounter. And you can sort of imbue that energy with whatever you want, essentially, whether you want to sort of imbue it with fear or love. And you will sort of harvest the effect of whatever you imbue that energy with. Which again sort of comes back to the whole responsibility thing. So if you're in a vibration of love, kindness, and peace and joy, then everything that sort of comes into contact with you will be sort of imbued, will be affected by this energy. And then you will not experience anything bad. You can literally turn any experience into something loving if you just stay in that vibration of love.
Yes, I can totally relate to that. And even if we just observe our lives and observe our thoughts, we can notice the difference. You know, we can charge our whole day just by having some kind of ritual in the morning, or just having a positive thinking, or writing in a gratitude journal, just saying some affirmations, chanting some mantras, saying a prayer. I mean, whatever applies to you. Really, you are a creator of your world. Whatever you believe in, it will work for you. So that's why I'm not against any religion or any worship. If it helps you, do it. You know, if it makes you a better person, believe in whatever you need to believe in. If it brings the value to your life, and it will also affect others in a positive way. So that's why, you know, it's nice to be able to see other people's perspectives, but also understand how much different everyone is according to their experience and according to their belief systems, according to just the whole way that they perceive life, the childhood, and all the experiences. It kind of adds up to where they are now, you know. So everything we've been through, it made us who we are now. But it doesn't mean we can't change that. So there's another point here. We have to start taking responsibility. You know, we have to realize if something that's been programmed on us, even by our parents, if it doesn't resonate, if it needs to change, we can still change it. We don't need to live with it and be a victim of that. And these, can you talk about these energies right now? I mean, we always mention, these energies, they're like so strong right now. What is really these energies? What is that we're talking about? And what is the Schumann resonance that everyone keeps talking about?
Hmm. So Schumann is this scientist, and he measured the vibration of the Earth. And I think when he measured it, it was something like 7.8, something, if I remember correctly. And curiously, if you measure the vibration of a healthy human being, they will have the same resonance.
Hmm.
And if you measure the resonance of a unhealthy being, it will be off the Schumann
Hmm.
resonance. And if anybody's familiar with Reiki healing,
Right.
somebody also measured the frequency of Reiki, and it is the same frequency essentially.
Hmm.
And what is happening right now is that the Schumann frequency is steadily rising, it's sort of going up. So everything, you might say, is moving faster and faster. And I think if you sit down and look back at your life, um, time today will seem to be faster. Like a day today compared to 20 years ago will sort of, the experience of the day passing would be a lot quicker.
Totally.
And at the same time, curiously, it also seems like what you can do in a day is so much more.
Which is a
Um,
paradox.
it is, exactly. It's a paradox, uh, which I think is one of the greatest teachers, really, the power of the paradox. Um, so learning stuff, again, learning, I prefer remembering, because you already know everything. It's just about tapping into it. Is so much quicker today than, again, 10, 20 years ago. This reminds me of the most sort of amazing GIF animation I saw on Facebook yesterday. So there's like a classroom of kids, and most of the kids are just, sitting at their desk and they're reading their book. And then one of the kids, he's flipping the page, and then he takes all the
Yes,
content and puts it
I got
inside.
that. My friend just sent me that. It was, oh my God, this is
Right.
totally, the kids know
So
the
yeah,
truth. That's why
it is, and I think
he's just downloading.
exactly. And I think this sort of ties into this whole shift very beautifully, because many of the children that are incarnating on planet Earth now, they come sort of with a much higher vibration than the kids born 10,
Right,
20, 30 years ago.
right.
And these superpowers, these gifts that we were talking about, are open or unlocked in these children already. So many of them are just, these extremely sort of powerful empaths, and they already know sort of how to read minds and do energy work, and they are, some of them don't really sleep properly, like really, they'll sort of lie down in sort of like a semi-wakeful state for a few hours, and then get up and be refreshed, and they'll remember their past lives. They'll know when it's about to rain, and they'll speak to animals, and so forth and so on. And the ones that have chosen to incarnate with parents that are aware of all this, wow, they're exploding. And then you have all the ones incarnating in families that don't really know about this, and they're going through sort of like a hard time, and the parents don't understand what's going on, so they'll sort of think that they're sick and put them on all these crazy medicines and so on, which you might say
Well,
is
hopefully we
how?
can, learn more about conscious parenting. So
Yeah, definitely.
I
But
mean,
again,
it's starting to become a trend. Like people are reaching for this information now. How to
yeah,
even raise the kids like that? And these kids are born now. They're called the rainbows. We had the crystals, we have the indigos before that, which I am one of them, and we had the Blu-ray. And this is like a whole different subject, so we can't even get into that too much. So if you guys want to research about this stuff, you can do it on your own. There's plenty of information, to find out which one are you. They're traits. Like the indigos, we came in to kind of make the way in a way, like to break the system where the rebels, for the most part. We came here to change ourselves from within and also crack the system, crack the matrix, make the way for the crystals, the more sensitive ones, and now this newest generation, it's from another planet. It's like a whole different race. I don't even think they're humans, actually. They're absolutely on the next level. They come
yeah,
in fully awake, they come in full of wisdom. They already know.
yeah,
They don't need to be taught, actually. They just need to be kind of protected and guided, and not taught anything, because they came here to teach us.
yes. I was waiting for you to say that. They are here to teach us, to remind us
Yeah, and
who
the
we are.
parents that are new parents that are now, like, what do you what do you think, if there's like one or two things to give them advice, what would you say, to a parent of children like that, the rainbow?
Listen to them. So most important is listen to them, because they're so wise, they're so brilliant, and realize how sensitive they are to your thoughts, to your emotions. They'll pick up on everything, and use them as an opportunity to do this what we call shadow work or negative belief hunting, because they're going to be like the most intense little mirrors for us all. So they will trigger stuff in us, and they will, as soon as we stray from the path of unconditional love and peace and so on, they will be there to remind us that, oh, you're doing it again. And if you don't listen to them, and if you don't take that opportunity to look at yourself and be like, oh, yes, okay, I am the one who's at fault here, and learn from them, it's gonna cause problems both for you and for them, in a sense. But I think going back to the whole taking responsibility thing, which is the thing that I would like to stress the most in all of this, in this 3D to 5D, that you are the creator. Stop being a victim. Learn the metaphysics of this reality, so you can start applying it to your own life. And once you start doing that, you will start to see the changes in your reality experience. Once you start to see the changes, you will know that this is real, this is true. And then from there, it sort of just becomes this dance where you sort of, you drift into the old patterns, and then you catch yourself doing it. Then you do the shadow work, and sort of raise your vibration. And then sort of like this 2 step forward, 1 step back. And then I'm personally having a lot of fun with it. Like, like I say, sometimes I'm just like, Max, you're an idiot. You did it again. Stop it. From the loving perspective, one should not judge and negative self-talk and so on. But if you do it joyously, I think it's all right to call yourself a bit of an idiot
If
sometimes.
you have a good sense of humor, you can take it well, because like I don't even call myself an idiot. I just I know that it will manifest. If I say something like that, I will probably do something idiotic after
Uh,
that. So, so I have to be careful.
true.
Actually, and the more you become aware, the more you realize how much power your words have. Like
Mm,
everything you say, in yoga, we have this concept of satya, truthfulness, being truthful. not only with others, not only just like not lying to people, but also how to be truthful with ourselves. What does it even mean? How to live what we preach, how to live that life that we're teaching to others. And I really was facing a lot of this test, for a while. And when we, you just rolled away. Okay, nice cup, by the way.
Ninja.
So yeah, I mean, it's an important step to responsibility or even self-responsibility is being truthful and being aware when we are not truthful, when we are lying to ourselves. We're just perpetuating this illusion, you know, and it just kind of holds, it just kind of pulls us back a little bit. I mean, we're always on the journey. We never really stop growing, but we have that urge in us sometimes to go further, to do it faster and to elevate, to expand our consciousness, If we're so dedicated to this journey, then this responsibility, taking responsibility and being honest with ourselves, not making illusions, and also understand where you already are living a lie. It's a huge step. It's a huge step. Only, and it's like a process. I don't think like we're ever totally absolutely pure in that way. We all have our little, things that I shouldn't be doing this, but we all do that. So that's another way not to be judgmental also, and kind of allow ourselves that slack, and allow ourselves to be human. We are, after all, still human. It doesn't give us an excuse to be like, to be dumb, but still, we are beings and we're in this body. And in a way, we came here to enjoy the physical senses as well. Maybe rising above them is the next level, but we're also here to experience, so we do have to understand it from such a larger perspective. And when we see it like that, I feel like all judgment kind of falls away, because we see ourselves and others as well. When somebody acts in a certain way that I don't necessarily agree with, I just see myself in them, and I've been that way. And I've done that. I feel like I've done everything, so I can't judge anybody really. So it's like what you can think of, I've probably been there, done that. So I couldn't judge at all. I can relate to people. I can be compassionate about it. While I'm making my boundaries, I don't let them affect me, but I also understand where they're coming from. So I cannot judge them for it. So I feel like this whole transition and this journey, it's more about becoming more aware of these things, and also more aware how we use our energy, how we channelize our energy, like in what you invest your energy in, like eliminating certain habits or changing certain thought patterns, improving and making it incremental improvements. It doesn't happen overnight. Like, I'm just sharing from my perspective, but I see you're kind of agreeing too. So we're like kind of talking about the same things. So what about the quantum physics? Can you even, do you know anything about that? Like, just to even explain to those people who are more of the logical thinkers, how does energy work? How does this particle behavior work? Because I also read about these experiments early in my journey, and that's what really hit me. I was like, okay, this is scientific. It's not about just some make-believe stuff, what we're talking about here.
Yeah. I think that the double slit experiments in quantum physics is well, it was all I really needed to know from the sort of the very sort of scientific perspective, because I think the next generations, or the next generation of what we call physics today will be dealing with our thoughts, our emotions, and vibration, and what I've been calling metaphysics through this little talk of ours, um, which is, I think, more important, really. So there will, of course, be some what do you call it? Some scientific inventions and technologies coming out that will start to integrate this, integrate human consciousness or consciousness in both the technology and in the way we perceive, experience the world. So me personally, I don't really find it that interesting, sort of the Newtonian to quantum physics, when you don't include consciousness, and again, emotions, thoughts, feelings, intentions, and all this, because I think that's where it's going. And when you start playing around with this in your own reality experience, yeah, I think the other stuff becomes maybe less relevant.
Well, what I really mean is the experiments when they, for example, they charged water molecules, you know,
Mhm.
just even Dr. Emoto's experiments, how you can have this two glasses of the same water being exposed to different kind of words. Even just put the word love on one and put the word hate on the other, and then they put it in different rooms, and later they observed through the microscope the difference how these water particles, they crystallize totally differently. You know, the ones that had the love word on them, they were forming these beautiful snowflake formations, and the other one was like kind of a chaos and just some kind of scrabble kind of, you know, image. That it was absolutely opposite. And if you think about it, we are made of water, you know, and what we feed ourselves, what kind of words and thoughts we expose ourselves to, and music and people, everything affects us. We're like these kind of information balls that constantly, you know, need recharging and cleansing sometimes.
Mm. Yeah.
You know, so I was kind of
So,
leading to that, if you had any experience or any like examples, but I don't know, it was maybe just something different that you thought of. It's freezing again. So hey guys, sorry for the technical difficulties.
yes,
uh,
Max's laptop ran out of battery, so
right,
now I am inside.
right. But you're back, and well, I was just asking, you know, just to come back to my thought about the water molecules and stuff like
Mhm.
that. That's what I really meant, you know, when I talked about the science perspective. It kind of
Yeah,
confirms. It's like everything we talk about. I mean, for me, it makes sense, you know, but somebody, they need to see it with their own eyes. And
yeah.
it can be like an
Well,
important life changer, you know, for somebody.
so one of the sure. All right. Yeah, I have been asked to relocate.
No problem.
Just a second. Um, so yeah, one of the like the big sort of game changers, so to speak, in all of this. I'm looking for for power. Um, so in sort of the Newtonian model of physics, we often think of consciousness as something that is like inside our head, you might say, or that consciousness is a product of matter. And going from 3D to 5D, there comes the realization that your head is inside your consciousness. Everything is a matter of consciousness.
So our body is an extension of our consciousness in a way.
Yeah, well, so is the outside world.
Hmm.
It's
So what is the
project.
conclusion? Like, what do we do now with this information?
Well, I guess we sort of keep coming back to this sort of like responsibility part, and not in sort of like the heavy weighing down responsibility, but sort of this idea that you are the infinite creator, you are everything and everyone everywhere all the time, and that you are all powerful, you are limitless, you are, you know, the Tao, the unified field, God, whatever you want to call it. That separation is an illusion. There is only one thing, and that one thing is everything at the same time. Back to the paradox, and the shift from the 3D to 5D is about sort of embodying that, being that, allowing yourself to be that. The great it's, the great I am, the stillness and the messy chaos, you know, the one and the all.
Right. So,
Uh-huh.
would you say there's like some kind of goal or destination for this? Do we make, this kind of jump into the next dimension, or is it just always about the process?
Well, I guess the beautiful part is that it is not something that you do. It is something that you realize was always there. So
Mm-hmm.
it's about becoming aware of it. So it's not like you go from one to the other. It's about expanding your consciousness, um, and thereby realizing that it was always like that. You just couldn't see it. So
And
it's sort of like, you know, a magic trick being revealed, where you're like, oh, and like I tricked me, and just, I meant to trick me, so that I could have this experience of, you know, what?
so have you had like any aha moments in your life, or did you go through something where you were like, wow, like just my whole understanding just changed?
Yeah, like several. I think that's what this journey is all about. Where you're sort of constantly having these realizations, these aha moments, these massive shifts in perception, awareness, sort of, you know, divine wisdom, sort of constantly flowing in, and your perspective constantly sort of blossoming and being expanded, and more joy and love and wisdom and connectedness and magic and um, beingness and so on. Um, and one of my favorite phrases from Abraham Hicks that you mentioned earlier is, "You can never get it done, and you can never do it wrong."
Right. That's deep. You can
Mm-hmm.
never get it done, and you can never do it
Exactly.
wrong.
We are, it is infinite. Um, so it is the sort of continuous contraction and expansion of the universe, or all that is, you know, the going from sort of the one to the all, to the one to the all, for infinite time, or for forever, or it is it is what we are. It is what it is doing, and it will do so forever, because time is an illusion. It's going from the nothingness to the everything, to the nothingness to the everything, and so back and forth. So there's no hurry. If you choose not to do it in this life or in this incarnation, then there will be another one. So there's no stress. And I think that the best thing you can really do is sort of just, relax into it and play with it and have fun with it and be joyous about it. And if you start stressing and straining and I want to do this and I want results and so on, then you're sort of working against the stream, against the current. So sort of this surrender, this like letting it flow and give up resistance, and it's I think a big part of it.
Right. So would you say that it's more about kind of learning how to enjoy the journey, how to be fully present, and that way we kind of give up the need to control anything as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we
Yes,
are becoming
absolutely.
automatically more happy because we are not reaching to control the outcome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we do not really control what happens to us. It is more about controlling how we deal with or react to what is happening. So you might say that we continuously test ourselves in this reality experience. And on that note, I think it should be said that Earth is a master class. It is not sort of kindergarten. It's some pretty heavy sort of stuff that we are dealing with and going through, and if you are, as a soul, have chosen to incarnate in a human body on this planet at this time, then you are a master, you might say.
Yes, the mastery of yourself is the most important, I guess, on this journey. So that taking responsibility, it's an important thing. And how much relief do you get when you start taking the responsibility? You know, it's like if I created this, I can also uncreate it. That's how I
Mm-hmm.
felt. That
Yeah,
that's why I felt so light immediately. It was just that one realization that kind of changed everything, opened my eyes on so many things. And
yeah.
whether it's a journey, we have to train the mind, but and there's also tools, there's also so many different techniques and we can use, for this. Just to become first is the awareness, of how you creating all this stuff, and then taking responsibility for your creation, and then you can live a joyful life. Actually, it's kind of like side effect. I mean, at least that's how it happened for me. I didn't push for anything, it just came
Yeah.
once I dedicated myself to just being better and more aware and more responsible for what I'm creating.
Mm-hmm. I also find myself sort of stepping back into the beingness, um,
Mhm.
as some of the masters like Muji would say, the purity of being, where you're not creating or reacting or doing. You're just in the great presence of the I am, and you're just watching. You're just the Godhead observing whatever there is, and going, oh, that was that. Oh, there goes that. And then you can sort of choose to sort of engage with it or not, if you want to. And sometimes, I personally want to and sort of engage and create and have fun and play with the reality. And sometimes I'm just like, no.
Right.
Today it's just being sort of not really doing anything, just watching the world go by, feeling the hair, the wind on my skin, and the water, and just listening. And
And this is also hard at first, to come to even that state of being without judging yourself, because we're so used to doing that when you are having like a day off, you feel like you should be doing something, It's like we constantly feel guilty if we're not doing something, if we're not being useful or productive in some way. So I think that's one major point. Actually, you mentioned this whole beingness. It's important to learn how to be without thinking that you are lesser of a human or something. If you're not creating something, how to love
Mhm.
yourself the same, even if
Yeah.
you're not productive today. And that was a huge part of my journey. When I first came to India, I was confused. Look at all these people just hanging around drinking chai on the street on a Monday, coming from New York City where everybody's just rushing with their briefcases in the midtown, and it's just like 24/7 movement. It's like if you're not going to work, you're coming from work, or you have to go somewhere or do something all the time, even on the weekends, and people even more busy on the weekends. So it's like coming to India and looking at this calm and this kind of a different attitude. It's like, don't you guys have somewhere to go, something to do? you know I had a
Yeah.
huge cognitive dissonance for a while, and I had to go through a period where actually I had a physical injury where I strained my back. I don't even know how it happened. It just, I had like this huge pain where I had to be just kind of bedridden for 2 weeks during a period. And during that time, I could do nothing. I could only listen to like meditations in the headphones and music, and that's it. I was laying down. I couldn't even read because I couldn't sit up properly. So during that time, it was like a boot camp of me learning how to accept myself unconditionally, without movement, without creating, without learning, without running around, how to just sit there and still be okay with it. That was one of my huge lessons on this path. So like I can understand
Mhm.
this whole beingness. It's like how powerful it is. It's like we don't even know how powerful it is until we have a taste of it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And I think if we sort of get back into the physics of consciousness and vibration, um, like the vibration of beingness, like pure beingness, like all of these like ascended masters that they don't really do anything. They just sort of sit around and they just emanate peace. Um, is actually one of the most important and profound things you can do right now on this planet, because like you say, so many people are so busy and there's so much endless mind chatter and so much self-judgment and judgment of others and guilt and grief and all of these, you might say, sort of less powerful emotions. And then as you sort of work yourself up this sort of ladder, then comes like courage and love and joy, and at the end there is what is often referred to as enlightenment, which is just pure being, where you're not doing anything because you're no longer creating any karma. And this vibration, that what it does for the collective energy is extraordinary in comparison to 10 people running around sort of being courageous, protesting and so on.
Right.
And we can see this with some of the new science regarding meditation, where we have um, 1,000 or 5,000 people meditating at the same time in a city, and their crime rates and traffic accidents and all of these things, it just drops radically. So yeah, if you want to do something,
And sorry again for this. I think Max got kicked out again from this
yes,
video. And I forgot exactly what we were talking about just now.
the purity of being.
Right. And since we're in this note, why don't we talk about the vibrational frequency and what it means to raise the vibration. Can you share some of your, maybe some advice, how we can raise our vibration, how we can expedite this whole process of ascension, of expanding our consciousness? I mean, any like practical things we could use in our life?
Yeah, I think a large part of it is diet, as in clean, healthy, organic food. No like processed foods. Stay away from the sugar, coffee, alcohol as much as possible, and fresh air. Be in nature. Drink lots of water. Lots of hugging and loving and sort of being around positive people. I think is important. No like self judgments. Even when you do something that you sort of maybe don't think you're supposed to do, don't judge yourself. Be kind and gentle with yourself, and then do the things you love. Do the things that makes you feel joyful and happy, whatever that may be.
And I also feel like this, from my experience, when I work on my mind and my thinking, then my habits also become more healthy. Like I automatically eat healthier and everything just kind of falls into place. So it's like, for me, it's like the inside out journey, you know? We have to be aware, of course. And then it's kind of like you start to educate yourself also about what you're eating and how to be cleaner and outside, inside and out. As in,
Mhm.
in yoga philosophy, it's a huge subject. Shwacha, the cleanliness, the
Yeah,
purity of
yeah,
thought, purity of your body, inside and outside, and also purity of your environment. This is, I feel like it's a huge kind of help to elevate, to raise our vibration, keep it clean, in and out, and keep it on the positive. So
yes.
anything else you like to add to this, or anything you think we haven't mentioned for this particular
Mm,
conversation?
no, I think we're pretty good. Um, maybe like the plant medicines might be a topic for our next conversation, which is also it's been a really big part of my journey.
Mm.
So if you are into those, or if you're curious about those, do some research, maybe first online, and then do some research on your own body. And
Plant medicines, yeah, good
yeah,
subject, and
exactly.
it's definitely worth the attention.
Yeah, so
Definitely, yeah, we can
powerful
definitely
stuff.
discuss that in our one of our next episodes. And yeah, so I guess this will be a good way to just kind of complete it before we get freezing again.
Yeah,
And thank you
exactly.
so much for chatting with me today. It's been a
My pleasure.
beautiful day. And the Schumann Resonance, don't you show us the energies that you want to show us? The Schumann Resonance of the,
I think I would rather show you something else actually,
yeah, yeah,
if
you
you
have the,
don't. If I can find it here, if Zoom will let me.
gonna use some visual aids. Let's get a little more
We've been doing some poems, and I got one of my graphic designer friends to do this.
beautiful.
So empty your cup, clean your house, leave yourself alone.
Leave yourself alone. That's deep.
Mhm.
That is nice and beautiful. You said your friend made this?
Yeah,
Hussein?
he did. What?
Beautiful. And wow. So we will conclude for today. It's been also again like an hour, I think. And it was really fun chatting with you again. It was a pleasure as always.
Likewise. And thank you so much for doing these talks. I think it's having a wonderful
Thank
impact on our planet.
Thank you for your presence, for your being, and for your sharing. And I will again put your contact info on the video if somebody wants to connect with you directly. You guys can reach Max on Facebook and just talk with him about anything you like, as well as me. I'll probably should mention my own Facebook as well. If somebody just watching it on the YouTube. But thank you for watching. And thank you, Max. Have a blessed day. Have a
You
nice
too.
Sunday. And we'll catch up soon. Namaste.
Definitely. Namaste.